Once, 5 years ago, when I was about 15, I was visiting my grandparents in Idaho. My grandparents live in an actual log cabin in the middle of the woods, but I had been there plenty of times before, so this never bothered me. However, this time would be the exception. It was August, and we were there for the annual family reunion party. The adults would mostly sit around and talk, and the little kids would play games that were set up for them. Teenagers like myself and several of my cousins who were there were too old to play games with the kids and not old enough to sit through idle chatter. So we decided to go and hike the woods. I say hike because that's what we told our parents anyway, but it was more like trying to scare each other in the dark. When we had gotten what we thought was a sufficient distance from the house, we split up, and with nothing but the fading light of the day, tried to sneak up behind and scare each other. It wasn't until the game had been going on for a while that I heard what sounded like a scream. A woman's scream. The only girl with us was Ellie, and she had been known to pull these kinds of tricks, so I didn't think much of it at the time. At this point, none of the others had managed to sneak up on me, but I hadn't surprised any of them either. While trying to stay hidden well enough that nobody else would see me, I saw that my plan had paid off. I spotted someone, barely visible in the darkness as they crossed between two trees not that far in front of me. Making my way towards them as silently as I could, I reached the area just in time to see the person shimmy their way up a tree branch by branch until I lost sight of them. By this point, I was thoroughly confused and weirded out, since in all the times we had done this, none of us had attempted to climb a tree before. Not to mention the fact that the way they climbed seemed unnatural, almost like an animal would, but I was certain that the figure I saw was human. I turned on my flashlight, which I had brought with me just in case, and shined it up into the treetops. When I didn't see anything, I said, "Come on! I saw you climb up there! You can come down now!" And I hoped that whoever it was would do as I asked. While I waited for a response, or for one of my cousins to reveal himself, I felt a cold hand touch my shoulder. For one thing, this was surprising, and also kind of weird since it was August and should have been rather warm out. Turning around, expecting to see one of the others, surprise turned into fear as I saw nobody behind me. I considered then that all the things I saw pointed to something possibly supernatural. My senses returned to me, and my first instinct was to start making my way back towards the house, thinking that the others would do the same. However, on my way back, I ran into everyone else, who had already gathered together and were looking for me. After confirming with them if they had seen anything anywhere near as freaky as I had, they said that they had also heard the scream from earlier, and that Ellie, being the only girl in the group, went and found the others since it wasn't her screaming. I told them what I saw, and only Jensen had also seen a figure he didn't recognize, which he watched walk behind a large bush and disappear. I looked at my watch. It said 10 p.m. Immediately, this didn't feel right, as we had gone into the woods at around 7 p.m., and we were all in agreement that there was no way we had been gone for 3 hours. It had felt like no more than an hour and a half at most. We decided it was in our best interest to start heading back, and I took the lead, since I was the only person with enough foresight to bring a flashlight. On our way back, we all could clearly hear the sounds of a fifth set of footsteps following us. There were only 4 of us, so instead of doing the logical thing of stopping to see if the extra footsteps did too, we all decided that it would be better to run instead. When we finally reached the clearing that the house is in, we were out of breath. Everyone was still outside, talking and having fun. As we relayed our story to the adults, most of them looked at us with confusion. My grandpa John stood up and said, "I don't know about this ghost nonsense, but what doesn't make sense is that you said you kids started heading back here at 10. Grandpa showed us his watch. "Now how can that be if it's only 10:15? We were shocked, but sure enough, Grandpa's watch read 10:15. Jensen, Ellie, and myself checked our own watches. All of them were frozen at exactly 10 p.m. Mathis, who was the fourth person with us, didn't have a watch, but he was the only one who had his cell phone on him. The phone's time was also stopped at 10. But the weird thing was, the date on it had changed from August 12th, 2014, to November 8th, 2007. Other than that, the phone was normal and didn't seem to have been reset. The next morning, we all went out to where we had been last night to show our families, but we found nothing out of the ordinary. I did some research on my own online to see if there was anything that might have happened there before my grandparents owned some 15 or so acres of land and their cabin is on. However, they built the cabin in the 80s with the help of my dad and uncle when they were teenagers, and before that, there was nothing out there on the land. As far as I could tell, nothing occurred that could be considered probable cause for paranormal activity. This experience that me and my cousins had that night was by all means the first and subsequently the last case of supernatural weirdness that has ever happened in the forest surrounding my grandparents' house.